So, intentional conversation, crucial conversation. So, when someone is yelling at you, what usually happens inside your head? Daniel, start
You
with
get
you.
mad.
You get mad, right?
Defensive.
You get defensive, exactly. And so it just doesn't set the conversation up for success, right? It's already starting off bad. It affects your attitude, kind of in a sense, right? But here's the thing. We get to choose the attitude that we're going to bring to the conversation. We have control of that, right? That's still in our control. Even though someone is yelling at us or whatever their situation is, their attitude, we still have some control in that. And it starts with our attitude, right?
Creating a safe environment so that the person feels comfortable enough to
Love
open up and talk about what needs to be discussed.
Of course, right? The safer the conversation, the higher the chances of success in that conversation, right? The higher the chances of you accomplishing whatever that goal was that you wanted to accomplish in that conversation, right? Right? We definitely agree that we are responsible for our own attitude, right? I can control that, right? And we agree that attitude matters, especially in the beginning, to set the tone for this conversation, right? So we can't control others, but we can certainly control ourselves, right? I can definitely control my words. I can control the tone, because tone matters. Tone definitely matters. I can control my actions, and I can control my attitude. What I can't control is that other person's emotions, right? Their reactions, their choices, their attitude, right? I can control my side of the situation. Attitude is the first thing that speaks, right? And sometimes it's silent things that can impact a conversation even before it gets started, right? Even before you start this meeting and things like that, people start to notice the silent things, right? Your expressions, right?
This is something that even can happen with a client. It can happen with a colleague, with your manager, of course, or even a friend. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it can happen at
Relationships.
any time, every time. Now, most arguments, to be honest, they actually start with a good purpose. We want to solve a problem, we want to give information, provide feedback, improve a situation even, or just reach an agreement. Now, the challenge is when that conversation becomes difficult, and then emotions get louder and the purpose gets quieter. So that's the thing that we have today. The topic Start with Heart teaches us how to bring the purpose back to the center, how to keep the goal in mind. Because you can't share a good intent if you don't have a good intent. It's difficult to keep the goal in mind sometimes whenever we have emotions at race. So for that, the framework suggests that we can ask 3 simple questions before or during a difficult conversation. The first question is, what do I really want for myself? What's my actual goal, right? Similar to what Des was saying before. Do I want to win in this conversation? Or maybe I just want to be heard? Do I want just to prove I'm right? Or I want to solve the issue? Maybe I just want to move forward to a solution and keep my credibility. So I need to remember this first thing. The second question is, what do I really want for the other person? Do I maybe want them to stop talking? Is that the goal? Or I want them to understand? Do I want them also to feel understood? Same thing they are doing to me. Do I want them to succeed? Do I want them to feel respected as well? Whether we're speaking with whoever, as we mentioned before, we want the other person to leave the conversation feeling respected. Because when people feel respected, they are far more willing to listen, to collaborate, and to work towards a solution. Which leads us to our third question, which is, what do I want for the relationship? Do I want to maybe build trust? Do I want to strengthen the collaboration? Do I want to have a healthy long-term partnership? Because sometimes we can win the argument. I mean, it can happen, but at the end, we end up damaging the relationship. And in most professional environments, the relationship will outlast the conversation itself. Check also on the signs that will tell us if we have lost our purpose. Usually, there are warning signs. And according to this framework, when the purpose disappears, people tend to move forward to one of two behaviors: silence and violence. And before anyone gets worried, violence doesn't necessarily mean yelling, and silence doesn't necessarily mean saying nothing. So let's start with silence. Silence happens when we stop contributing meaningfully to the conversation. We may still be physically present, we may be responding even, but emotionally we have checked out. Silence comes from fear. Maybe we're afraid of the conflict, we're afraid of making the situation worse, and we think that if we avoid the conversation, the problem will go away. But it doesn't solve the issue. It just delays the situation and it delays the conversation at the end. Now, the second warning, as I was mentioning, is violence. Again, violence doesn't necessarily mean aggression or yelling. Violence happens when we try to force our ideas, our opinions, or conclusions into someone else's. Violence often comes from a desire to regain control. When we feel challenged, misunderstood, or just frustrated already with the conversation, and we may stop trying to understand and we're just trying to win. We stop being curious, we become sarcastic as well, and basically we want to end the conversation. So violence can look like interrupting, talking over others, dismissing ideas, using your authority also to shut down a discussion, becoming defensive, or just trying to prove someone that is wrong.
We have talked so far about keeping a positive attitude, right? Our attitude matters, how we jump into the conversation. But now that I'm here and all that is an internal talk to myself, I need to learn how to start with heart, which is pretty much start a conversation by sharing the good intent, right? I'm here, I'm already having this crucial conversation. So I know now what I want for myself, I know what I want for the other person, and I know what I want for our relationship. Now, how do I share that? How do I make sure that the other person feels what my goal is? And nothing of that can happen if I don't start a conversation sharing what's my good intent. The objective is to start a conversation with your goal. So we can state our purpose up front and move from the beginning of a conversation to say, Kevin, we need to talk. No, that's more for Josh. Okay, Josh, we need to talk.
Yes.
The credit card is maxed out. It's definitely not gonna bring a good result for me, right? If I start a conversation like that, as soon as I mention we need to talk, he will say, oh boy, okay, brace yourself, something's coming, right? But if I start a conversation saying I have something to share and I believe will help to have more nice things at home, conversation will switch, right? Because I am starting sharing my goal, my intent. I'm stop making it about shaming or blaming or criticizing, and I make the conversation about mutual collaboration. I'm saying why I'm jumping into this conversation and why this matters for us, for me, for you, and for us. So right? Our third scenario is you notice a team member is having issues with attendance and the person keeps sharing excuses. So let's use our framework to start that conversation. The first step is to choose our attitude, right? So let me ask you, Rusty, what attitude will help de-escalate the conversation?
I always try and come from a coaching perspective where we're just saying, hey, we're a team, right? So it's important for us to all be on time, to make the actual team work.
I want to have a coaching attitude. What does it mean to have a coaching attitude? What are those behaviors that we're gonna share that will help us not become defensive.
Yeah, to me, I mean, a coaching attitude is kind of a playbook attitude. We all have a playbook. We all have a guideline. We all have something that we have for protocol that we kind of use as kind of our daily regimen and routine.
First question is, what do I want for myself? So you're talking to this team member. What do you want for yourself?
We're making sure that the expectations are clear.
Okay. What do you want for the other person?
To feel heard, but also feel inspired after we speak.
And what do you want for your relationship with that person?
That our goals are aligned and that we both feel that we were both heard and that the expectations are clear for both of us moving forward.
Fernando, how will you share your intent? How will you start that conversation? You need to start by sharing your intent, right? So how will you start sharing your goal? You're on the conversation with Wally. You know?
Like a schedule. We play video games every Tuesday and Wednesday, right? And if he was showing up late to those gaming sessions, I would be like, brother, how are we going to become better, right, at playing this game? Like, how are we going to scale and play this competitively, right? So try to make him buy into the why we're doing things, going back to the why. And if we share that why, then I think that's the perfect way to start the conversation.
Action item. Our action item is to, for sure, practice, right? So we want you to connect with your assigned accountability partner. In our Genius Makers chat, we're going to share who is going to be your accountability partner. And it's your time to apply the Lead with Purpose framework in a real conversation.